Capital punishment, or more notoriously known as the death penalty, is an extreme type of punishment given to worst of the worst criminals. Today, I will be talking about if I think this should be abolished or if it should remain. Let's dive in. Capital punishment is a punishment given to worst of the worst criminals such as murderers, terrorists, and rapists. It is up there with life in prison as the worst of the worst punishments you can get. Well, it is of course given to the worst of the worst criminals. It's not just given to a minor offender. Like, you steal a book from a bookstore, I sentence you to death. But then, no, that's not how it works. It is given it to the worst of the worst criminals. Pretty much what it is the condemned will be sentenced to death, which is them being executed by state or federal personnel. From 1976 to March 16th, 2021, which is today, there were 1,529 executions, of which 1,300 of them were done by lethal injection, which is the act of a prisoner being strapped to a large table and then being injected with potassium chloride straight into the heart, killing them with a painless, quick death. 163 of them were by the electrocution, which was in the electric chair, which is a prisoner being strapped to a wooden chair and then electrocuted. 11 of them were by gas inhalation, which is a gas chamber, or in which an oxygen mask, which ironically has gas being pumped through it, and it's strapped to the prisoner's face until they meet their maker right afterwards. 3 of them were by hanging, which is self-explanatory. I won't put any pictures for that. And 3 were by firing squad, which a prisoner is strapped to a chair and placed against a wall, and then about 10 men or so fire at them with automatic weapons, and yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. Now, this part of the video that could raise some controversy, because I'm going to discuss whether I think it should be banned, and once and for all, and if it shouldn't. Now, I'm on the side of why I think capital punishment should be abolished, and it's for 2 good reasons. The first reason is the prisoner could want the death penalty, and yes, before you say anything, I'm being dead serious because I looked at the statistics, and a lot of prisoners tend to kill themselves on the first couple days of admission to the prison, and they could want the death penalty because that means death. And yes, sometimes, don't get me wrong, prisoners could be on death row for years, but most commonly they tend to get killed off the first couple days they're there at death row, and then most prisoners kill themselves. Like, if you get life in prison, the prisoner's most likely going to kill themselves because there's no way out besides killing yourself from there unless you escape. But that's not to say that some prisoners can be extremely mentally ill and kill themselves, but I mean, they have been sitting, and it might sound like I'm defending them. No, they're nasty pieces of shit. I would never defend a prisoner or any of the crazies like I'm talking about. But that's not to say these people are going nuts because they've been rotting away in the same cage or cell for, it could be like 50, 20 years, and they'll eventually want to kill themselves. And that's probably why they want death row, because if they get sentenced, I mean, they're not going to be happy. They're not going to throw a party in court like, yes, I got death row, but they'll probably want that instead, because that means instead of maybe like the minimum 10-year wait, which is still long, but it's better than 50 years, unless they're hopefully rotting with a disease or something. All in all, what I'm saying, guys, is death row should be abolished because I don't think prisoners should be able to have the easy way out and only wait 10 or so years, 20 years, and then get killed off in prison by the state. I think they should be forced to face their consequences for what they did. If they raped someone, they need to rot away in life in prison. If they murdered someone, rot away for life. Same with terrorism. I think they should rot away in prison, and they should not be able to get killed. They should serve their time, do their part, and face their consequences and rot for the rest of their life in a dirty cell. They should not be killed. I mean, yes, they might kill themselves, but most large state penitentiaries have many precautions, and many of the cells don't have anything that they can harm themselves with. Let's move on to the next part. The second reason is the chilling reason why. And yes, before you say, Wolf, that makes absolutely no sense. What is the chilling reason why mean? It's kind of obvious. The reason why that should be abolished is the ridiculous percentage of innocent people executed and framed. Not framed, but like executed, innocent people. According to the National Academy of Sciences in the U.S., they've determined that the percentage of people wrongly convicted and killed on death row is a staggering 4%. And yes, that might sound like very small, but that is ridiculous. It is estimated that a staggering 120,000 people out of 2.5 million in the U.S. justice system have been wrongly convicted and sentenced to death and killed off innocently. I'd also like to mention in the 1940s, some of you may know, there was the case of George Stinney, who was a 14-year-old black boy who was wrongly convicted of killing 2 white girls and then was sentenced to death in an electric chair. And they had no evidence against him, but because he was black, they just sentenced him with no evidence. His family wasn't allowed to watch, so he was just sentenced to death. And the sad thing is he was electrocuted in the electric chair, and he was so little that they had to stack books up so he could reach the helmet that they put on you. Very sad. In conclusion, guys, I think that death row should be banned because of the reasons I said. It has some pros. The only pro I can really think about it is that the prisoners wiped out of this world, exterminated, no more of them, no more possibility of them escaping. But I just think it should be abolished, and life in prison, because in my opinion, life in prison is worse to give somebody, because that's just telling them they're going to spend the rest of their life in a tiny little cage, or I don't know why I keep saying that, cell. Majority of the U.S. states agree with me. Capital punishment is outlawed in some states, which hopefully someday it'll be all. If you guys agree with me, let me know down below. If you guys disagree, let me know down below. See you guys. This is W, signing off. Peace.